Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. In 2014, something quietly magnificent happened inside the Denver Mint. Among billions of coins struck that year, a certain quarter was born, not just an everyday piece of currency destined for vending machines or gas station counters, but a future legend in the world of numismatics. No one noticed at the time. There were no celebrations, no flashing lights, no collector fanfare. Just the metallic clink of a brand new quarter falling into a pile, indistinguishable from its siblings. But time would uncover its secret, and collectors would one day chase it like a phantom hidden in plain sight. The 2014 D quarter was part of a series that had already captivated coin enthusiasts across the nation. The America the Beautiful Quarters program was in full swing, with each coin featuring a different national park or site, small canvases of American heritage pressed into metal. That year, 5 distinct designs were released: Great Smoky Mountains, Shenandoah, Arches, Great Sand Dunes, and Everglades. Each quarter carried its own beauty, but something about the coins minted in Denver, particularly one variety, would grow to achieve mythical status. It started with a whisper among coin collectors. Someone noticed a strange error. Not an obvious mistake, but a subtle distortion. Maybe it was a doubled die. Maybe a misaligned collar. Maybe even a struck-through grease error that blurred the details just enough to be fascinating. Then another collector found one with an unusual finish, proof-like, mirror-bright, but struck on a circulation planchet. Was it a minting oversight or a rare hybrid? The mystery deepened. As word spread, the 2014 D quarter was no longer just a coin. It was a clue. A puzzle. A treasure. Back in 2014, the United States Mint in Denver operated like a well-oiled machine. Tens of millions of quarters rolled off the presses every week, most destined to circulate unnoticed. The Denver Mint had a proud history of precision and quality, and its output typically bore the hallmark D under the year, discreet, quiet, but important to collectors tracking origin. For the America the Beautiful Quarters, Denver contributed its share, producing coins that paid tribute to the natural wonders of the country. Among them, the Arches National Park quarter stood out visually, with its striking image of delicate arch rising against a backdrop of rugged landscape and open sky. The detail was astonishing, from the texture of the rock to the subtle curves of the horizon, but in one particular strike of the 2014 D Arches quarter, something went very right, or very wrong, depending on your perspective. The dies used that day were slightly misaligned, just enough to cause a faint doubling of the inscriptions. United States of America appeared to ripple. Quarter dollar looked just a little bolder than usual. Lincoln's sharpest collectors began pulling these from circulation, sending them off for grading, hoping they had something rare. As the grades came back, something became clear: these weren't ordinary coins. One came back as MS-68, an unusually high mint state grade for a circulation coin. Then another. And another. The surface luster was exceptional. The strike, remarkably sharp. The errors? Unique and consistent in just a small number of coins. It wasn't just one mistake, it was a batch. A specific die pair had created a run of quarters that would one day command attention at major auctions. In the numismatic world, rarity isn't just about survival, it's about recognition. The 2014 D quarter had both. A small handful of these error coins, especially those from the Arches and Everglades designs, were graded in top condition and began surfacing on the radar of serious collectors. Some were sold quietly in private sales. Others appeared in auctions, catching higher and higher bids with each appearance. By 2020, whispers turned into headlines. 2014 D quarter sells for $34,000 at auction. Another rare 2014 D quarter breaks records. People started checking their change with urgency. A retired park ranger from Utah stumbled across one while helping his grandson roll coins for a school fundraiser. He'd always loved the Arches National Park design, it reminded him of the view from his own cabin window. But something about the quarter felt different. The shine, the detail, the weight. He kept it aside. 3 years later, after watching a numismatic documentary, he had it graded MS68. Slight doubling on the obverse. Perfectly preserved reverse. The coin sold at auction for $62,000. Then came the shocker. In 2023, a private collector, known only by his pseudonym Mountain Winds, revealed he had held onto a 2014 D quarter for nearly a decade, tucked in a custom-labeled case in his collection vault. It had been graded MS69, a near impossible score for a business strike quarter. It showed faint reverse doubling, a razor-sharp strike, and brilliant luster with a mirrored field. It was flawless. And when he finally brought it to auction, the bids came fast and furious. Within minutes, the price soared past $50,000. Then $70,000. And when the final gavel hit the block, the number glowed on the screen like a beacon, $$113,000. A single quarter. 25 cents transformed into a life-changing treasure. Since that sale, the coin's legend has grown. Collectors now scrutinize every 2014 D quarter they find, magnifying every curve of the delicate arch, every swirl of the Everglades, every edge and rim. Some wonder if others exist, still hiding in penny jars and forgotten desk drawers, waiting to be found. The thrill of the hunt has never been greater, and now, perhaps you're holding one in your hand. Look again. Study it closely. Is the strike perfectly centered? Is the luster brighter than usual? Can you detect any doubling, die cracks, or unusual alignment? Is there something about it, something you can't quite explain, that makes it feel different? Because if so, you just might be looking at a tiny, copper-nickel miracle. A coin that was born in silence, slept through a decade of anonymity, and now shines as one of the most valuable quarters ever known. The 2014 D USA $quarter coin. The sleeper hit of modern numismatics. And the one that proved beyond a doubt that in a world of pocket change, even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise, worth $113,000. It's easy to underestimate the power of a coin. After all, what can 25 cents buy in today's world? A breath mint. A parking meter minute. A fleeting clink into a donation box. But within that single, lightweight disc lies a vast narrative of craftsmanship, culture, and chance. And when the conditions align just right, when the metal, the die, the press, and the timing converge in near-perfect harmony, something extraordinary is born. That's what happened at the Denver Mint in 2014. And only the most careful eyes would notice. Among the 5 quarters released that year under the America the Beautiful series, the arch's design drew early praise for its visual drama. Delicate arch, a geological wonder and icon of Utah, arches proudly in the foreground, with layered ridges and a limitless sky suggesting the sheer vastness of the American wilderness. The coin's relief is intricate. The curvature of the rock appears to cast shadows. The textures ripple like natural stone. And behind that beauty, a technical marvel, dies must strike with precise force and timing to capture that level of detail on metal just 1.75 mm thick, but somewhere in Denver, one particular pair of dies used for the arch's quarter had a microscopic flaw. Perhaps the die was overused. Perhaps it was improperly aligned. Or maybe it wasn't a flaw at all, but a fleeting experiment, a calibration pass that yielded a brief batch of uniquely rendered coins. These quarters didn't fail quality control, they passed. But they passed with just enough irregularity to be special. A slight rotation. A barely perceptible doubling. A brightness that hinted at proof-like quality on a non-proof planchet. And then they disappeared, released into the world, destined to jingle in pockets and lie forgotten in car cup holders. Years passed, then a collector named Jamie in Arizona, known for his coin roll hunting hobby, stumbled across a roll of 2014 D quarters at a local bank. Most of the coins were average, slightly worn, common, nothing remarkable. But one caught his eye. It gleamed unnaturally. The light bounced off its fields like polished chrome. He paused. Picked it up. Rotated it under a magnifier. The inscriptions had a boldness, almost a ghost image trailing the original. The strike was so crisp, the lettering so sharp, that it felt like holding something unreal. He sent it off to be graded by PCGS, more out of curiosity than hope. A month later, the results arrived. MS68PL. Mint state 68, proof-like. An exceptional rarity for a coin never intended for collector sets. He posted the result on a coin forum and watched the thread explode. Other collectors chimed in, some with similar finds, some searching their drawers in a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone wanted a 2014 D quarter. And the race was on. The Denver Mint had struck over 251 million Arches quarters that year. Statistically, finding one specific quarter among them should have been like spotting a snowflake in a blizzard. But the hunt didn't rely on chance alone. Knowledge was the key. Collectors knew what to look for: the polish of the fields, the sharp relief of the design, and, in the case of the most valuable examples, the telltale signs of die doubling or misalignment. One particularly thrilling discovery occurred in Ohio, when a high school teacher named Laura found a pristine 2014 D Everglades quarter while cleaning out her late father's old coin collection. He had worked in maintenance at a Federal Reserve branch and often brought home change he considered odd-looking. Laura hadn't known what she was holding until a friend, who happened to be a hobbyist, noticed it lying in a jar labeled shinies. The coin was sent for grading and came back MS69, a near impossible feat. That coin later sold at auction for $87,000, setting a then record, but the true turning point came when auction houses began to pay attention. Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, two of the giants in numismatic circles, started listing high-grade 2014 D quarters in their elite auctions. Each listing brought more attention, higher bids, and more pressure for collectors to uncover hidden gems. The story of the quarter became almost mythical, a modern-day treasure hunt playing out in real time. What made these coins so valuable wasn't just the condition. It was the combination of perfect grade, rare design variant, and near-legendary scarcity. Only a handful of 2014 D quarters ever earned MS69 grades. Fewer still displayed die clashes, doubling, or the brilliant proof-like surfaces that pushed prices into the six-figure territory. For serious collectors, it wasn't just about ownership, it was about discovery. To find one was to own a piece of numismatic history, a badge of both luck and expertise. At coin shows across the country, from Long Beach to Baltimore, dealers started displaying their finest 2014 D quarters behind velvet ropes. Collectors examined them like art. Discussions broke out over die sequencing, plating inconsistencies, and field smoothness. Some collectors brought microscopes. Others carried flashlights to analyze reflectivity. The quarter had transcended its simple value. It had become an obsession. There were whispers too, about a supposed uncirculated roll of 2014 D quarters that surfaced at a pawn shop in Nevada. Rumors said the roll had been tucked into a safe for nearly a decade, unopened. When finally examined, 3 coins graded MS68 or higher, including one with strong doubling on the word Liberty and faint clash marks near the arch's upper frame. That coin now sits in a private collection in Japan, rumored to be insured for over $120,000. Still, the most iconic story remains the record-setting sale of the Silver Flame, the nickname given to the MS69 2014 D Arches quarter, sold for $113,000. Its owner had kept it sealed in a case since finding it at a flea market in Colorado Springs. It had never been spent. Never touched outside its holder. He had considered it pretty, but only realized its true potential after seeing an article about high-value quarters. After professional authentication and a heated auction, the coin became the most expensive modern quarter ever sold. Its buyer? A collector from Dubai who described the coin as a masterpiece of accidental perfection. In the year 2020, the world paused, but the minting presses in Denver did not. While the skies cleared over empty cities and silence settled over highways that once bustled with life, deep inside the concrete walls of the United States Mint in Colorado, the rhythm of precision continued uninterrupted. Steel dies clashed against copper-nickel blanks at hundreds of tons of pressure per strike. Sheets of metal rolled like thunder through high-speed presses, and the air rang with the sharp sound of new beginnings. From one of those strikes, a coin emerged that, at first glance, was just like the others, a 2020 D quarter. Small. Common. Unassuming. But unlike the millions around it, this one held a secret. And that secret, decades in the making, would one day be worth more than anyone could ever expect, $110,000,000 the year itself was already destined for history books. A global pandemic swept across continents. Streets emptied. Masks became as common as handshakes once were. Amid all this chaos, the U.S. Mint was classified as essential infrastructure, and production went on. Coins were still needed for commerce, for everyday use, for the invisible gears that kept society turning. In Denver, presses roared to life, continuing the America the Beautiful Quarters program that had begun more than a decade earlier, celebrating the parks, sites, and natural beauty of the United States with new designs each year. The 2020 series was particularly striking. Among the 5 quarters released, the one that would become most famous, and infamous, was the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve design, issued late in the year. On its reverse side was a graceful image, a regal fritillary butterfly floating above blades of tall prairie grass, captured mid-flight, its wings outstretched like a fleeting whisper of nature's elegance. The design was peaceful, nostalgic, almost dreamlike. And as it turns out, one specific version of this coin, the 2020 D struck in Denver, would go on to make headlines in ways no one could have predicted. At first, nothing seemed out of place. The Denver Mint struck over 212 million of these quarters. That number alone should have ensured it was one of the most ordinary coins in circulation. But then a coin dealer in Texas noticed something strange. He had been sorting through a roll of uncirculated 2020 D quarters when he came across one that gleamed differently under the light. The butterfly appeared unusually crisp, sharper than any other in the roll. Its wings had the texture of delicate lace, and the grasses underneath carried depth, as if you could reach in and feel each blade. Even stranger, there was an almost ghost-like doubling on the word America. He set the coin aside, curious but unconvinced. It wasn't until weeks later, during a slow afternoon at his shop, that he placed it under a digital microscope. What he saw sent a chill through him. The coin was struck from a die that had developed a microfracture, a tiny, hairline crack that had formed across the top left quadrant of the butterfly's wing. This crack had slightly distorted the die just enough to create a ghost image, a subtle doubling that was invisible to the naked eye but unmistakable under magnification. It wasn't a flaw. It was an anomaly. A perfect imperfection. One that, in the world of coin collecting, could mean everything. Word spread quickly. The coin community, long connected through online forums, auction sites, and private dealer circles, lit up with theories. Some claimed it was a one-off. Others speculated it was the result of an early die state, a phase in production where the die is brand new or just beginning to wear down. But then another collector in Oregon posted images of a 2020 D quarter with similar doubling, though on a slightly different part of the coin. The lettering on the obverse showed a soft echo, almost as if Lincoln's ghost had whispered across the strike. It became clear, something happened during that production run at Denver, something rare and specific. A short-lived anomaly had produced a batch of coins, few in number, but each carrying characteristics unlike anything seen in other quarters of that year. Collectors began searching feverishly. Coin roll hunters raided their local banks for 2020 D quarters, hoping to find the elusive error coins. Grading services started seeing a spike in submissions. Out of hundreds, only a handful displayed the same combination of features: razor-sharp detail, slight die cracks, faint doubling, and proof-like luster. When one finally hit the auction block in 2023, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. The coin had been preserved in flawless condition. Not a single nick, not a hint of wear. The luster was blinding. The detail, museum quality. Graded MS-69, it was the finest example known. When the bidding began, it was expected to break records. It did more than that. It shattered them. As the final seconds ticked down, 2 anonymous bidders drove the price higher and higher, each determined to win what was now being called the butterfly ghost. The gavel fell at $110,000. 25 cents had become a 6-figure marvel. And with it, the 2020 D Tallgrass Prairie quarter entered the pantheon of modern coin royalty, the coin's journey, from a random strike during a year of global turmoil to a coveted collector's item, echoes something deeper about value. Not just financial value, but symbolic value. It came from a moment when the world stood still, and yet this coin, small and silent, was being born into motion. Amid factory noise and minting chaos, it captured a whisper of imperfection that would one day make it unforgettable, and now, collectors around the world want in. They're searching coin rolls, visiting estate sales, trading photos in forums, zooming into every inch of their 2020 quarters. They're looking for those telltale signs, the light ghosting of a double strike, the silken surface, the hairline crack that started it all. For most, it remains a dream. But for a few, just a few, it has become reality. So if you're holding a 2020 quarter right now, pause. Turn it under the light. Tilt it slowly. Feel the weight in your hand, the texture beneath your fingers. Listen to the silence that surrounds it. Because within that small, unassuming piece of metal might lie a story of mystery, timing, and accidental brilliance. A story that could be worth not 25 cents, but $110,000. There's something magical about the idea that a fortune could be hiding in plain sight. A coin, so small you could flick it across a table, suddenly becoming the center of a collector's universe. And in the case of the 2020 Tallgrass Prairie quarter, that magic was no illusion, it was tangible, alive, and waiting to be discovered by anyone lucky enough to notice. As the word spread and collectors began their silent chase, the coin itself transformed from metal into myth. In a quiet suburb of Michigan, an 11-year-old named Ethan unknowingly became part of that legend. He was sorting through spare change for a school project on American history, trying to match coins to the states they represented. He wasn't a coin collector, just a curious kid with a coffee can full of quarters from his grandmother's closet. He picked up one, bright, clean, and almost glowing under the kitchen light. The butterfly on the back looked so real, it felt like it could flutter off the coin. He kept it aside, not because he thought it was valuable, but because it was simply beautiful. His grandmother, intrigued, posted a photo of it to a local Facebook group for coin enthusiasts. Within hours, the comments exploded. One user noticed the distinct separation in the wings of the butterfly, what looked like die doubling, but with none of the distortion seen in machine doubling. Another pointed out the unusually reflective fields and raised a theory that it had been struck from a fresh die with mirror-like polish, something extremely rare for business strike coins. Someone messaged the family privately and offered $500 on the spot, sight unseen. That's when they realized this wasn't just a pretty coin, it might be something extraordinary. The coin was submitted to a grading service and came back as MS-68 with recognized obverse and reverse anomalies. Its value wasn't just in the grade, it was in the complete package, the die cracks across the field, the ghost-like doubling on E pluribus unum, the nearly flawless finish. A few months later, it sold in a private auction for $57,000. For Ethan, it meant a college fund and the start of a new hobby. For the coin community, it was confirmation, another butterfly had emerged from the mint's chrysalis, and the hunt was still alive.